Hello everyone and welcome. For those of you who are new to the channel, behind me you can see my BMW E28 and my Mark I Golf. In my opinion they are both great cars and I wish I could drive them around every day. But both being 30 years and over, they aren't really suitable to be driven on a daily basis. Cars like this get cracked hoses, leaky seals and noisy bearings, and all that stuff just makes you not want to drive them every day. So it is advised to get something a little bit more modern and a little bit more reliable. And that's what I did. And if you think those two cars are cool, wait till you see what I've been driving around for the past 3 years. Don't panic, you're not watching a clickbait video. The new car is coming later. This magnificent shitbox is my 2004 Volkswagen Lupo, and it is what I've been driving around for the past few years. It is powered by an uninspiring 1.4 liter naturally aspirated engine. But to my surprise it did inspire a rodent of some sort to make a little house in there. Can't blame him, it looks cozy in there. I bought this car because it was a good deal and because maintenance would be cheap. And during our 3 years together it has been a trusty companion and it has served its purpose. But man, am I sick of this car. The suspension feels like it is made out of jello, it accelerates slower than a Lada filled with 16 cows, and it is so girly that even Barbie would not like to drive it. So yeah, this hairdresser mobile is soon going to be for sale, and that means I need a replacement. So let's get her out of the shot and reveal my new daily driver.
All my friends, yellow rider.
This is my new 2007 Audi A6 Allroad. It is powered by a 3 liter V6 diesel engine which is capable of 240 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. It is of course a TDI, which means that it is turbocharged and has common rail direct injection. The turbo is a variable geometry turbocharger, which basically means that the turbine wheel is equipped with movable vanes around it to ensure that boost can be delivered throughout the entire rev range. Cooling of the supplied boost happens with 2 intercoolers that are placed on each corner of the front bumper. The engine has proven to be quite reliable since the car has traveled 391,000 kilometers and it is still going strong. Furthermore, it is equipped with a 6-speed automatic gearbox, quattro all-wheel drive, and it has adaptive air suspension. There is a choice of 5 ride height modes which can be selected depending on the terrain the car is driving on or the amount of comfort the driver wants. It has got several cool options like heated seats for every passenger and a retractable tow hook. You might be thinking that getting a car with almost 400,000 kilometers is kind of a big risk to be driving around every day, and you'd probably be right. But there's a reason that I'm not afraid to drive this thing around, and that is because I'm very well acquainted with the car's previous history and the previous owner. Because this car was previously owned by my dad. He bought this car 5 years ago and he has driven it for many kilometers and never really had a problem with it. But over the years it started to develop some small annoying defects, which made it a little bit annoying to live with. So that resulted in him getting a new car. But both my dad and I were really sad that we had to get rid of this thing because it's pretty much worthless because of the mileage, but we know it's still a pretty good car. So that got us thinking. I was pretty sick of my Volkswagen Lupo and my dad was going to sell this. So my dad and I got to an understanding and now I am the proud owner of this thing. I am really stoked that I own this thing. It's really a big step up from the crap that I was driving before. But the story isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Being a luxury car, parts for this aren't really cheap. And if you take into account that more and more stuff will break, then yeah, it will cost me an arm and a leg. Speaking of things that break, there are a lot of small things that are broken on this car, so I'll just show them to you guys. The first issue is that the left airbag has a tiny hole in it, which makes the car drop overnight. It is cool to see what the car would look like slammed, but it is a pretty annoying problem. I'm also worried that the air compressor would get worn out from having to work more often. New bags have already been ordered, so it's a matter of waiting until they get delivered. On to the next issue. When turning the key in the ignition, you're greeted with a VW Christmas tree. But the light that shines the brightest is this one. Vag cars and their check engine lights go together like peanut butter and jelly. And of course, my car is no exception. I suspect it has something to do with the swirl flaps on the intake, but to be sure I need to buy a coating tool to confirm it. The next problem is also a Vag Group classic. The central locking on the car has a will of its own. When unlocked, sometimes 2 of the doors stay closed, sometimes 3 of the doors stay closed, sometimes they all work perfectly. There really is no pattern in this problem. So if anyone has a suggestion on what the problem might be, please let me know. For the next issue, I lined up the car on my driveway. Under heavy load, the car is a smoky boy, so I'm trying to accelerate hard on my driveway to expose the problem. As you can see, there is a puff of dark grey smoke when it gets pushed hard. I had to get off the gas quickly, so the amount of smoke is limited, but on the road it gets much worse. The smoke might have something to do with the DPF or dirty injectors, but the matter needs further inspection. For the car's mileage, the bodywork is still in pretty good shape. There are some minor scuffs and scratches around the body, and additionally there was some pinstriping installed by an individual with very small genitals. The paint is also very dry and the headlights are a little faded, but this can be solved with a little bit of polish. The last problem is the front suspension. Many bushings are worn out, especially those of the front roll bar, so this will also need some attention. Okay, now let's go over everything that I have got planned for this car. So the first thing I obviously need to do is fix everything that is broken on it right now. I'm not going to really bother with the doors, that's just annoying, but the thing that I really need to fix are the airbags in the rear, because I don't want to risk that the air compressor is going to get f***ed. And then what I also need to do is change the suspension arms in the front, because those make a lot of noise and yeah, it's not really that safe. I need to check up the car to really check out what is wrong with it, and then we can fix those. But after everything is fixed, then we can do some modifications. And the first thing I want to do is to lower the car. Because the car is obviously on air suspension, this is really easy and pretty cheap. There are 2 ways of doing this. The first one is using a coating tool and adjusting the values of the height sensors in the level control module. But I don't own a coating tool, so I'll need to source one. Yeah. And then the second way is to get a arm kit for the height sensors, so you can adjust the lever that measures the height of the car, and that way the car thinks it's at this height, but actually in fact it's lower. If I do it this way, I'll explain it to you guys. Then some basic stuff I also want to do is like new wheels and just cleaning up the interior maybe a little bit, depends on the funds. But then if the car gets sorted, the first thing I want to do is drive it on the Autobahn, because this thing is literally made for driving more than 200 kilometers on the Autobahn on your way to work. In addition to doing some top speed runs, I also want to get the car on a dyno to see what her power figure is and compare it with what it came with when it was new. In the future I might also do something about the exhaust, because these things can sound pretty good for a diesel. So I'll add in a clip so you can kind of hear what I'm talking about. So those are all my plans for the car. I hope you can get excited over it. I know I am. I know you guys are used to seeing me drive and work on older stuff, but I hope this can be a nice addition to the channel. Give me some feedback in the comments if you would want or don't want to see this car featured on the channel. And I'll also create a poll so you guys can vote if it should stay or not. So that is the end of today's episode. I just made this quick video because yeah, I can't really work on my older cars because I'm waiting for parts and nothing is getting delivered because of the corona situation. But I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked it, please consider subscribing. I noticed in my analytics that only 10% of you viewers are subscribing and the other 90% isn't. So please do me a big favor and subscribe to my videos. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.